Hello and welcome to Edinburgh Business Stories. EBS is hosted by myself, Alex Richards of Umore, a video production studio based in Edinburgh and Bristol, and Alan Smith of Action Coach, providing business coaching throughout Edinburgh and the Lothians. If you aren't already, remember to subscribe, and I hope you enjoy this upcoming episode of Edinburgh Business Stories. A big thank you to Rathbones for partnering with us on this episode. Rathbones. Invest well, live well.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Give us a snapshot of who you are and what your business does.
So my name's Mark Rafferty and I'm the Managing Director of Bernard Hunter Mobile Cranes and Bernard Hunter Metal Recycling. I've been in the company now for 23 years. We're a family business. I'm lucky enough to be part of that family. So my granddad was the original Bernard Hunter. He founded the company back in 1946, just after the war. And he came out of the army, and he would buy ex-army trucks and ex-army cranes to handle scrap metal, and that progressed into hiring out cranes. And we've taken that forward. I'm third generation, so my uncle was also called Bernard Hunter. That was the original founder's son. And my granddad died at a very young age at 49, and Bernard Jr. continued that business with a partnership with Jim Rafferty, my dad, and they worked together for 40 odd years, but then unfortunately Bernard Jr. died in 2010. So lucky I was part of the business by then. I had done a university degree in business studies, and decided halfway through that degree was a work placement that you could either organise with yourself or the university could do it for you. And we thought, right, this would be a good opportunity to get into the business and see if I can work with family and see if it all works. It's always a challenge, always fun. And it worked. So we spent a year doing my uni placement as well as working. It did mix, it blurred the lines between theory and practical for me. Practical a lot harder than theory, but it gave me a good grounding to be part of the business, and it worked. It was good working with the family and working with Bernard and my dad, and that's how I started.
Very good. And just out of interest, was the university in Edinburgh or where were we? Yeah, nice.
So it was Napier University.
Nice.
So it was a very difficult year doing the placement, because you still had to do your university courses and you were working at the same time. And I treated uni as a bit of a job. I was never a student. I was there to do the course, to do the studying, do the exams, but then I was working. I've always worked. It's been kind of instilled in me forever. When I was 10, I actually got a kind of summer job at Bernard Hunter's, and I was buddying up with a crane driver, or it was a lorry driver then, a man called Stevie. He's still with us. And that was 32 years ago.
Right, yeah.
And Stevie and me would jump in the truck, and I would go and help him pick up scrap cars at the age of 10.
Must have been great at 10 years old doing that kind of stuff, eh?
It's just always what we've done. We just play with big boys' toys.
Brilliant.
Stevie still slags me to this day, because I used to get in the truck and fall asleep and then wake up at the site and then give him my hand, what I thought I was helping. And I remember my wage was 20 pence an hour. So for doing, then it's not actually went up that much since. I used to get my £8 something at the end of the week, and after that was a lot of money to me. And used to get in a wee brown envelope out the wee window, and with my pay slip. So it was all fun.
Amazing. So going back to the beginning, because although you mentioned scrap metal being kind of where it started, and then the cranes, but there was a whole host of other weird and wonderful things that your granddad ended up getting involved with. Yeah,
so my granddad, our facility was down in Seafield, and that's where the original Bernard Hunter starts. And we were a motor trader, but he also went into selling petrol, and we had a very successful petrol station at Seafield, where Bernard got into a partnership with Esso and became one of the biggest buyers of Esso petrol in Scotland at one stage, because he had the idea in buying in bulk and selling it cheap and working on a small margin. And the cars would be all the way down Seafield waiting for their petrol. And it was serviced petrol. There was an attendant to fill up the car. They would get their oil filled up in the old car. It would be leaking oil probably. And my mum was one of the attendants. She remembers being very young on Christmas Day, going out to serve petrol because somebody was in need. And my granddad's ethos was for your requirements, whatever you needed. He was very determined to supply. And on Christmas Day, that person needed help, and he opened up the forecourt and served them petrol. And my mum was very young. She might have been about 10 years old and out there with a jacket on, filling up petrol.
And you said that the kids loved that as well, didn't they? Why do they love it?
So he used to do all the kind of sales tricks back in the day, where he used to go and buy all the toys and fill the living room with toys. The kids would come along for Christmas and every kid got a toy. And then you would find the same kid would then jump in the neighbour's car, and then they would come and get petrol, and they would work a wee system, and they would pay an employee to dress up as Santa and do the Santa thing. And I think that employee had to give up the Santa costume because to keep himself warm, I think he was on the old grandpa's old cough medicine.
Actually, you're mentioning it Esso just now, but this is going back, this is maybe before your time. So do you remember the tokens, the tiger tokens you used to get in all the glassware that you used to get from Esso?
And dusters. We had the yellow dusters.
Oh, yeah.
And I've no doubt there'll be people listening that still have the dusters. We do. We still have these dusters about the lasted, God knows what they were made of.
Amazing. Yeah.
But yeah.
This episode of Edinburgh Business Stories is brought to you by Rathbones. Rathbones is one of the UK's leading wealth managers with an office right here in the city of Edinburgh. They have a long history of helping people plan and invest for the future they want, and believe there's one word you should live by: well. Well learned, well invested, well timed. Maybe you're scaling a business or climbing the career ladder, and you're earning bonuses, dividends, and a significant salary. Success is rewarding, but it often leaves you time poor. Rathbones understand the demands of business ownership and professional careers, because when you plan well, you can grow well, live well, and sleep well. Wherever you are on your wealth journey, Rathbones can help you go further, and they do it all well. To learn more, visit rathbones.link/EBS. Rathbones, invest well, live well. When you invest, your capital is at risk.
Fantastic. So there's the car garage that obviously leads quite well into scrap, and that continues to develop, and then the cranes. At what point did the cranes start becoming a business in their own right versus just a utility to move things with?
So when my granddad died, it left quite a burden on the family. He was a sole trader, and the death duties were incredibly high. So we had to move from Seafield to Gilmerton, where we are today. So we're at Gilmerton Station Road and Gilmerton Road. And we moved there in 1972. We basically had to start again. So we had to sell Seafield to pay for the death duties, and the family was just keeping that grind going with the scrap metal. We had our cranes, we had old cranes. They were old British-made cranes that would leak oil and break down, and very constant of maintenance that went into these things that are costly. But the grind was there, and that's what Bernard and Jim Rafferty did, and they grounded hard, and they managed to build this and turn the crane side around in the late 80s. Interest rates were incredibly high at that stage, but they plodded on, they kept moving, and they were both workers, really hands-on, and that was the big turning point for the crane side of the business, moving that forward. And the investment into our machines, we managed to buy Lieber cranes instead of old Coles and Smiths cranes that were a dying industry. And the Germans brought out these new products that were miles above anybody. And that's what we've continued to buy today, as well as other suppliers and manufacturers. Predominantly our fleet are made up with Lieber cranes.
Mm-hmm. And is it cranes? Are there other types of machinery that you would then also provide?
Yeah, we do. We do everything. I'm still leaning back onto for your requirements. Although our bread and butter is our mobile cranes. We have everything from a 40-ton crane up to our new flagship is a 700-ton machine. It's a beautiful big product. But we also do glass lifting, and there's a lot of accessories that come with that, and there's a lot of machinery movement. Yeah. We will install a 20-ton generator into the building now with these electric powered skates that really make a hard job easy. And I'll not take any credit for that one. My dad wanted to purchase this product, and I was a wee bit hesitant at the start. I'd normally shy away from the projects. My dad will come back into it. He's taken a wee bit of a step back from the business, but I'd still rely on him as my business advisor. He calls himself the Janny because he says he's just cleaning up. And but I give him Jimmy jobs to do. And that is, right, we've got this big lump of product. We need that into a factory or taken out of a factory. And that's where he can really shine and bring everything together, tell us how to do it. And then we feed it into the company and we can get it done safely. So these powered skates have been a game changer for us, actually. It takes away manual handling, which has got a huge safety implication. And we can beat our competitors with a slicker process that our customers are actually they're enjoying.
So what is it? Just like wheels, electric wheels?
Yeah, just electric wheels. So we jack up the products. So say it's a big transformer, and we'll put skates at the back and this little powered unit at the front. It's got a big battery bank beside it. And my 10-year-old can operate it. It's basically 2 levers, and this thing drags the product under power to wherever we're taking it. The magic of this little machine is the wheels are like a solid plastic. So they're very, very hard, but a little bit more malleable than a solid skateboard wheel. So it can go over little cracks and little bits of gravel and things like that. And because it's under power, if you let go of the levers, it doesn't roll back. So it keeps it always there.
So before that, what would you have used to move?
A solid skate. But then, so you've got a solid skate, like a skateboard, just made of heavier material that you put this product on. But then you've got how do you move it then? You need to either push or pull. And that's always the risky bit, because you're needing to either pull it with a forklift or some other power. And then the control's not quite as easy as doing it with our products now.
I was going to say, the pulling, is that where the donkeys come into the whole kind of story?
the Bernard Hunter donkeys. Yeah. So we've got we've inherited donkeys over the generations. My granddad started. He's always had an interest in animals, and my mum Elizabeth, she is like Dr. Dolittle, and she's the best animal lover that I've came across. So when my granddad bought the donkeys to keep horses as a companion, but also as a superstition that donkeys bring luck. So we've kept it going over the generations, and I'm now not going to be the one that ever lets them go. We're having to find new digs for the donkeys, and I'm definitely keeping them, and I'm trying to figure out, right, how do we keep these going?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got 3 donkeys now. Many people see them on the bus when they pass our facility, and probably scratch their heads saying, "Why is there donkeys in the middle of a scrapyard?"
That's what you were saying earlier, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. I've seen them before, and I was like, "That's a random place for some donkeys," but whatever.
Yeah.
Each their own. It's lucky.
I believe so, and I'm not going to be the one that ever gets rid of them and finds out.
I'd be the same, I think.
There was a story years ago where we had a scorching hot summer in the early 80s, and the donkeys left our facility to go to grazing that had better grass. And the minute they left, the scrap price plummeted. Now, Bernard didn't blame that economical crisis on anything else but the donkeys leaving the site. And his instructions were, get those donkeys back. Right, so yeah, I'm not going to be the silly one that finds out if they do or don't bring luck.
Brilliant.
That's crazy. So I guess, you've got the lifting side and the shifting side. It's just all these big toys, right? So what are some of the cool things that, in Edinburgh you've lifted or shifted?
Oh, God. Yeah, how long have we got? So we work for everybody from the council to Historic Scotland, as well as industries like EDF Energy and Siemens, oil and gas, houses. We've even lifted a small house before for a developer, a house in development that needed this little pavilion moved. So the whole structure was underpinned, and we lifted this little pavilion and pivoted 180 degrees and landed it again. So we've done the Terracotta Warriors that came to Edinburgh many years ago on a tour, and we had to install them into the museum. And we've had a recent one with a 10-ton humpback whale that got washed up in Granton.
Right.
So we had experience with whales, unfortunately. That's our second big one. The small ones are easily managed with a forklift and a wee lorry, but the big ones need a little bit more special care and attention and a little bit more muscle work with a crane. So the very first time we done it, it was maybe going back to 2017, 18. I was working in our office. It was a Saturday, and it came up on BBC News that there was a whale washed up in Joppa. And I actually thought to myself, how do you move a whale? That must be quite hard. 10 minutes later, I got the phone call from the council. Can you come down and have a look at this? And we have a very bad habit of not being able to say no. So I realised that headache was going to become mine quite quickly.
Yeah. 4-year requirements, remember?
4-year requirements. So we were down there and the whale was there, and this one was a sperm whale. And we then had to hire a barge. We floated the whale to Burnt Island. It was the only dock that would take it as a dead animal. We got the authorities to all okay this. We spoke to the pathologist of the whale, and he was saying it could be about 10, 12 tonne. So we set up a suitable size crane. We're there. The smell was incredibly bad. It was a smell that I'll never smell ever again. So we did have spectators that would come, they would smell, they would leave. It was quite handy because we don't want an audience. Nobody wants an audience when you're dealing with something complex. So managed lift. This crane's not lifting this whale out of the water. We got to our limit. Right, it's obviously heavier than what we've been told. So we brought up another crane, and we changed all the rigging, and we're basically now budgeting for double the capacity. This thing came out at 20 tonne. It came out of the water. So it went into a 40-foot Arctic on a big tipping box. So basically just like a big box on the back of an Arctic. We had to seal it, and we then took it to Dunbar landfill the next day. That's where that animal went. So we started that job on the Saturday morning, and it was finished on Sunday night, very late, and that's how quick we responded and done the job, and it was all done. Not a job that I wanted to ever do again. It was very happy it was done, successful. They have a very bad habit of blowing up because they decompose quite a lot. Oh, yeah. We got lucky. That was luck. That was hugely luck that this thing didn't explode while we were lifting it. Yeah. Even the pathologist was like, oh, well done. Half expecting that to do something. So just leading back to last year, we got another phone call from Edinburgh Council saying there's a whale at Granton. And the office actually found it quite funny because I'm going, hi, right. And he said, no, it's a real inquiry. So for your requirements, we're back down to Granton, had a look at it, and there it is. And I'm going, no, another one. This is not what we want to be doing. And so the tide was in, and you could just see this whale, and it had been a bit battered about on the rocks and things like that. And the council needed it to be removed for, there was an animal group that got behind it and actually wanted it removed from the shore. So we said, right, next morning we'll all arrive, let's get a plan in place. And the thing had travelled down the shoreline about half a mile, and luckily it still stayed on the shoreline. So it was a let's act quick here, let's get this thing anchored to the shore protection system. So when the tide came back out, back in, we couldn't afford that whale to go any further out into the sea or out of radius of a suitable size crane. So the planning was getting done in my car, feeding that back to the office, because everything has to be documented. We do lift plans and risk assessments and method statements, but just for the project we're working on. So we've planned the thing from start to finish, and then the next morning at 6 o'clock, we worked with the tides. Tide was going out. We arrived and lifted the 10-ton humpback whale into our lorry again. And this one went to Glasgow, went to a large animal facility.
So you're developing a bit of a specialism for a whale removal.
Not really wanting it. Not really. It's always handy for the slogan. We're having a whale of a time. But it's one of these things. I know the pathologist quite well, lovely man. He's like, oh, you again.
Yeah.
And, so it's quite good. But that lends to the for your requirements part of the business. Mm-hmm. People know us for either doing scrap metal, and some people knew us for doing mobile cranes. Yeah. It was an older generation that knew us for just metal, and the generation now probably knows us just for lifting and mobile cranes, and not fully seeing the full picture of what Bernard Hunter has to offer. Yeah. We also have land. We do self-storage for companies. A lot of construction sites in Edinburgh have no space. So we can receive their material, say it's 100 pallets of brick. We can receive them all in, store them, and if they need 10 delivered a week, then we can forklift them onto our trucks and deliver them, and ideally to our crane that then lifts them. So it's a full one-stop shop.
Wow.
Yeah, so the storage is quite an intricate part of the business as well. We've stored many monuments, and we've had Sherlock Holmes, we've had Rabbie Burns. They've all been stored with us.
I mean, to be entrusted with that kind of item, clearly you're trusted to be able to do the job. But it must come with a lot of procedure and kind of protection around the item that you're being asked to carry.
Yeah, I think our clients get a nice feeling when they come into our facility and you see our bits of kit. Yeah. So we'll even store an air handling unit or a chiller that goes on top of a building for their air conditioning. Yeah. These things can be very, very costly. It could be up to £500,000 in one unit. Yeah. And sometimes the clients, or if we're working for, say, they're working for a bank, they might want to come and vet us to say, well, where is this unit actually going? Yeah. And who's handling it? How's it getting looked after? Yeah. So when they come into our facility, it's not a scrapyard. We're how a scrapyard should look. And I'll kind of come to that. We're concrete, we're lovely, secure place. And my cranes are very expensive. So we look after them as well. So when the client comes in and they're seeing the value in our kit, it kind of reassures them we're looking after theirs as well.
Yeah. And in addition to the on the land bit, there's a project that you're working on. Is that right?
Yeah. So another string to our bow was a wee bit of property development. I'm still never going to call myself a property developer. Mm-hmm. It's we thought we could do a little bit of tidying up our yard and developing the front part of it as a thing called Gilmerton Gateway. It's a mixed-use site with a food store, industrial units, business units, an NHS health centre, and a small parade of shops. So it's even got a hotel, a 60-bed hotel, planning permission. So we thought, what a great idea. It's what the area needs. Gilmerton used to be very much on the outskirts of Edinburgh, and all these new houses that have came to us and were very much in the city as well. So we thought, well, this is a good time to let's increase the site, make it better, make it for my future generations as well. And I don't know if my kids are going to come into the business or not, maybe in some shape or form, and how they'll evolve Bernard Hunter, because the company's evolved to all these different things over the 80 years. It doesn't say that it's going to be cranes all the time or metal all the time. It might be something else. Mm-hmm. So we thought, do you know what, let's get Gilmerton Gateway started and get the planning application started. And that was a baptism of fire. We were faced with Edinburgh Council planners, which were challenging, to say the least. It was a wee bit disappointing because we put in a hell of an effort. A lot of money. We had a lot of good people around us. We had 100% public support. We had multi-political support, councillor level support. And we thought, good, this is a great thing to do. sat down with the planners and said, right, what do you think? And like, give us some feedback. And they said, oh, that's not how it works. You make the application, we'll make the decision. And unfortunately, they were going to make the decision to decline the application because of a very old report that they had for Gilmerton saying that it didn't need any more retail. But that old report didn't have the 900 new houses that surrounded the site. So we challenged them on it, and we had to get the right people, the right information. And we done press, we done social media, we really campaigned hard to get the truth out there. I even had to send up a drone and take pictures of the area to show the councillors there's houses next to us that does need these facilities. And it's a lovely little, the Gilmerton Gateway could be used in any big housing estate now, where you normally have a village and another 100 odd houses attached onto it, but they don't have shops, they don't have a school. This is a little thing that you could drop in any town and it would actually work very well. So we started this in 2018. We then get hit with COVID and the restrictions and lockdown, so everything was delayed, and eventually got in front of the councillors at a hearing, and we managed to win. So we got the vote to proceed, and we got our detailed planning for phase 1 and our outline planning for the rest of the master plan, which hopefully will bring a health provision to Gilmerton as well. It's very much needed.
Mm-hmm. And again, just reading up before this conversation, I was introduced to the 20-minute neighbourhood concept. That's what.
So the council are driving a concept where your area should have facilities, so you're not jumping in cars.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about, is keeping people where they're meant to be. There was an argument at the hearing where the planners put forward that Gilmerton Gateway shouldn't go ahead because people in Gilmerton could jump on a bus or a car and go to Cameron Toll for the shops. Now that's still taking people away from the area, but still forcing travel on the network. Where our site actually has a walking distance, it has a cycle path that's next to it, it has a bus stop next to it, and then it's also got facilities for cars. So we've got all 4. One of the councillors stood up and said to the planning department, what are we doing here, guys? This is what we're trying to avoid, people jumping in cars and buses. This is not an argument against Gilmerton Gateway. This is actually one for it. And that this was one of the drivers that pushed it forward. And it was almost an unanimous vote for it to go through. So, and it's good. It will be good. We'll hopefully get it off the ground shortly. We're starting our industrial units. We've had various interests for the food store. Hopefully get that off the ground soon as well. And then I'll hopefully be speaking to NHS Scotland and getting a very much needed health provision in Gilmerton.
How do you continue to guide the business when there's so many strings to your bow, right? Like that's the legacy you've been handed, and so it would be a shame to not continue on that legacy of continuing to be at anybody's requirement. But, as you then try and even manage that business, how do you set a plan when you, in 2 years' time, might be doing something you didn't even know you were doing,
First of all, I don't really stop. Work-life balance is not really a thing for me. It's just more of I'll do things just when I can do them. It's so also have a tremendously good team supporting me. So within the business, within our operations, right down to the guys on the front line, on the cranes, in the yard. Some of the guys have been with us 30 odd years, and they understand the requirements. My operations team in the office really kind of shore me up and allow me to focus on other things and being able to help them. But even before driving here today, I was looking at containers for a customer who was purchasing a container off us. So I was trying not to get too dirty while I was opening up containers before coming here. But that's the thing. There's no job that I won't do, and there's nothing that you just have to be able to be involved and take ownership of it.
And so you mentioned obviously you got 30-year tenure with some of the team as well. So they'll have seen you since you were 10 years old.
Yeah.
How's that been then as you've as they've watched you grow? But I guess you're now at the MD position, and some of those guys might well still be doing similar jobs to the 10. How have you managed to kind of navigate that way without people thinking, oh, there's the boss's son? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What's your angle on that?
The guys on the ground that operate. So the lad that used to take me out when I was 10 years old to go and pick up the scrap cars started as basically a labourer, driver, and now progresses to drive one of our biggest cranes. A very responsible role. And he can also he's multi-skilled within the business. So when our staff understand that they're not just one thing, you're not just a lorry driver or a crane driver, and you can work with the business. And that's our secret sauce. If the cranes go quiet, our economy at the moment is not great. Every industry is slowing down, from house building to major construction. But if I could then flex and move, if somebody needs that transformer moved into a building, that same individual can go into that and be trained and experienced in that type of work as well. We don't make people redundant. It was one of the important ones was with COVID, when we went into that lockdown stage. We sat tight. We had a lot of crane orders coming, up to a value of about £6 million. So we're thinking, what's going to happen to the world? Is there going to be an industry left after lockdown? What is this virus that's coming through to get us all? But we sat down and we looked at it and said, right, we're going to continue. We're going to continue to invest in people. We made nobody redundant. We kept everybody paid and looked after. We continued with our receiving these cranes. We took 3 of them in during lockdown. It was kind of special dispensation for it to arrive. And I'm going, this is mental. This could be like, why are we buying new machines? This could be it. But we stuck to what our plan was. And it paid off. It really did pay off, because after COVID and everything, when the industry came back, especially construction, it boomed. There was a big rush. And we were sitting there with new kit, with the same staff, all ready to rock and roll. And we could attend to that demand. And it was just that constant feeding back. We always feed back into the business quite aggressively, actually, and invest back in. And that's what my job is. So I'm just looking after the business for as long as I'm here to then pass it on. And hopefully my kind of drive is to keep it stable, keep it profitable, and see it grow.
And on that, I mean, obviously you've got kids as well. Would you like to see them coming into the business? I mean,
absolutely. It's I've got 3 different characters. I've got Martha, who's incredibly intelligent. I have no idea who she takes that. Well, it's my wife, Lara. And so that's really quite nice. That's Martha is, she's a reader. I was never a reader at school. I've got dyslexia, and I shied away from all that. I used to put my homework in the tray, not even touched. Never even used to put my name on it. I just used to put it in the finished tray. And got around for that. But so that's Martha. She'll either be running a very successful business or a very successful prison cell. We're not very sure. And then we've got my middle child, Angus. He is fantastic, very caring, loving child. He gets henpecked, unfortunately, from the top and the bottom, because all he's looking for is to keep his siblings happy and his friends happy. And that kind of leads me to Hamish. Hamish is my 6-year-old, who is the problem. He's going to be the one that sells the business, buys the Ferrari, blows it all in a weekend. We've got no idea what Hamish is going to do. He's got my dad's mechanical mind, which again, it kind of surpassed me, unfortunately. But he's the one that wants to understand how things are made, not what they just do. So what's the inner workings of them? So I'm hoping that he can bring that to the business as well.
But that wouldn't be the first Ferrari in the family either, or any other kind of cool toys, eh?
Bernard, my Uncle Bernard, which there'll be a lot of people tuned in to listen to stories about Bernard, which I can't tell you guys today. I'm saving them for the Netflix drama series. We did do a book 5 years ago now on the 75th anniversary. And there was a lot of stories that we would have loved to have put in there about Uncle Bernard, but we couldn't. So he was certainly known, and he was a character, and certainly well known in Edinburgh. Yeah. And as I say, there'll be a lot of his friends that see the Bernard Hunter name on this podcast and think, oh, let's hear about old Bernard.
You're teasing us here, aren't you?
So can you do a watershed one? But Bernard, he loved flying. Always had a helicopter. Used to fly that with my dad, Jim. Yeah. And he kind of got known. It was just bear in mind, back then there was no social media or anything like that. But it's amazing how through word of mouth, this helicopter became legendary. And we sold it 15 years ago after Bernard's death. My dad wasn't flying, and my dad just seen the value of a crane sitting there. So we sold the helicopter and bought a crane, which is much more usable. And so it's there's only so much I can say about my Uncle Bernard. He was a very hard-working character.
So, just out of interest, had you branded the helicopter up? Right, so it was fully logoed and...
It was a work vehicle, 100%
of course
deductible.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we did use it to go to some sites.
Why not?
Yeah.
We had a customer that was through in Ayrshire,
right, and
it was connected to Scottish Power, and a transformer blew up, and he needed us to attend very quickly. And he phoned, it was my dad at the time, and said, right, how quick can you come through? My dad says, half an hour. And he's like, where are you? Edinburgh. He says, don't worry about it. I'll see you soon. And they used the helicopter to get to site.
That's cool.
And the guy was like perplexed at how it all happened, but we then took the crane driver through versus the same method. But there was a wee bit of a business in the helicopter as well. We used to hire it out to other individuals that would fly helicopters. And but it was all branded up blue and yellow with the logo, and it was a very good hobby to have.
Yeah. And just on that, you obviously did the book for the 75th year anniversary, and you've got 80 years coming up.
This year coming,
yeah. So what are you doing for that?
We're going to plan a few things. Yeah, we're trying to get individuals into our yard to actually see the bits of kit. We're quite keen on getting schools and youth groups and things like that in as well, because a lot of construction sites are so heavily involved with health and safety, it's very difficult to bring younger people into that environment. So if we can make an area safe and demonstrate these tools, hopefully it sparks the education system to maybe push kids towards us. We've just started 2 16-year-old school leavers into our industry wanting to leave school. We've brought them in. We've done a job fair at Dalkeith High School, and a lot of the young lads came up and girls and were saying, what qualifications do I need to work for you? And I'm saying, the ability to listen, the ability to learn. That's all I'm asking for. We'll do the rest. We'll invest in that person. We'll skill them up. We'll take them from driving a car to driving a lorry to driving a crane and everything in the middle. And it's like a life apprenticeship that you could get with the company. And we've done that with many, many people. And some people do that and leave and come back. And you're hoping that you get that investment into the person and they'll give it back to us. But we always say if somebody gives us something, we'll pay it back tenfold. So that's how we proceed with that.
We haven't touched much on the scrap side of things. I guess it's kind of an interesting industry in terms of it can be one of those that can be abused quite heavily by theft. There's a lot of stuff. What have you guys done to try and, curb that?
Yeah, it certainly is. The metal theft is treated as a terrorism, because if somebody cuts a telephone line, it might mean that somebody can't dial 999 at the end of that. Or if they mess about with a railway line, then there could be an absolute major incident on their hands. So the police done a Operation Tornado a few years back, where they were training their police officers to help identify stolen metal. the British Metal Recycling Association put out a big notification to all the dealers saying who'd be interested in taking part. You'd be expected to host police officers and do the metal dealer part of it. So we kind of thought about it and we thought, do you know what? Let's go for it. It's a wee bit of work for us doing it, but it'll be good for the general everybody. So we put our name forward, and the British Metal Recycling Association contacted us and says, are you doing this? And we said, yeah, why? And said, you're the only person in Scotland that's put yourself forward.
Really?
And we're a wee bit disappointed in that, because everybody's got this bad kind of, the gangsters in all the movies have always got a scrapyard kind of thing, and it's always the baddies kind of thing, and it isn't like that. There is unscrupulous people out there, but it's not all the same. So what we're trying to do is to eliminate this demand for stolen material. If there's no demand for it, there's no supply for it. So we've got a notice in our facility that says any items suspected to be stolen will be reported to the police. And we're trying to set up with the police, with the local police, an advance notification where if anybody gets anything stolen within our area, they could just let us know about it. Just a wee email saying what's up, and we could look out for it if it ever came in. Because we can't police things and expect everybody to be coming in with stolen material, but it could be a stolen car, it could be a garden bench, anything like that just let us know and we'll look out. But going back to Operation Tornado, that was a rather big thing. And we ended up training 90 police officers to identify stolen metal. Now that could be a beer keg, everybody identifies it a beer keg, but not once we've touched it. It looks like a frisbee. So we just crush them. So stolen cable could be quite high value because of the copper content. But when you're coming into our facility, it's not cable you're looking for, it's the remnants of what cable used to be. So it could be the plastics or the armour or the copper. So we taught the police, and we've done it in groups of 30. We've done a classroom side of the training, showing them documentation they needed, and also out in the yard. And it was one of the police officers that said to me, he was like, this isn't a proper scrapyard though. And I'm saying, well, no, you've got this wrong. This is how a scrapyard should look. It's because they weren't up to their ankles in mud and bits of piles of scrap everywhere. We keep a really nice, tidy operation. Because of the crane outfit and the lifting side, we use that learning and that same ethos into the metal recycling. The police were quite standoffish to start with. They were a bit like, right, what, as the villain, the scrap dealer, the baddie in the movie kind of thing. When they came in, they were kind of looking at us a wee bit suspicious. And then halfway through, I think they could learn and trust us. And the minute you ask anybody, do you want to see a car getting crushed? They all turn into 10-year-olds. Yeah. Like, all wanting to have a shot at crushing the car and seeing how we process a scrap car getting processed into a small cube. Yeah. And at the end of it, they're all buzzing. They're like, oh, can we bring our kids back and things like that. It's like, you just want to come back here, don't you? Yeah. So it was very successful. It was really good. It gave us a great reputation with the police and a bit of a rapport. When they come in regular and ask us about different things that could have arrived. And they've even got a form that they fill out. And one of the younger police officers was, right, you have to fill out this form. And the older boy beside, he was like, calm down, son. He went, they made the form for us, mind. So,
right, okay, yeah.
So it's about transparency. Transparency in any business is very important, and honesty. So there's been a lot of regulation change within the metal side of the business, and it's went cashless, which is to trying to stump out this easy access to money. And so hopefully crime's not supported through it. But also record keeping. The record keeping upped its game. But we were already there. We were already doing it. So it was a nice development that we're saying, right, everybody's on the same playing field. And that's what we're striving for the metal side of the business, is doing a lot more business-to-business transactions, because we have the cranes. We can lift heavy bits of metal onto a lorry, then scrap it and give you the certifications at the end of the day. So it's that seamless transaction. But having the record keeping and everything behind it is very important. And it leads to that honesty and transparency.
Mark, what is your guiding principle in business?
There's a few, but I always believe you have to be in the room and take the opportunities, and lead them back to being honest, never ever compromising on safety or quality. And that's.
And just on that, if I can, just in the same way as you've used a number of times the 4-year requirements mantra, which kind of really informs the decisions that you take as well. Can you give us any examples just to kind of support those points you make? Be in the room, take the opportunity, for example.
So it kind of leads to the question about luck. Mm-hmm. People say, are you lucky? And we're saying, well, no, you have to say yes to these things. You have to be able to respond. So, and things lead from that. So, what was your question again? Sorry.
Well, more just like an example to support your point around be in the room, take the opportunity. As you look back at the years in business, have you?
Well, it was the biggest one for me personally was taking the investment on the machines after the lockdown.
Yes.
When we did that, the Brexit came into play, inflation came in, the Ukraine war happened, which restricted a lot of the material coming to us, and prices for cranes went through the roof. We took the opportunity to invest into the machines that got delivered, and we missed that spike. I know competitors that actually cancelled cranes and had to rebuy them later when they realised everything was okay, but at an overinflated price, at the new price. And nobody budgeted for this add-on.
Good one.
So that's what we're saying is taking the opportunities, doing what you're saying you're going to do, and hopefully it pays off at the end.
Mark, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, and we wish you all the luck in the future.
Thank you very much for having me.
Very good.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Edinburgh Business Stories. If you found it useful or inspiring, please do subscribe and follow along for more conversations just like this. And why not share it with your friends too, so that more people can hear these inspiring stories. We'd also love it if you could rate and review this podcast wherever you're listening. This helps more people to find us and ensures that we can keep bringing you these stories for years to come. And if there's someone you think that we should speak to, let us know. We're always looking for great stories to share. You can email us at edinburgh@businessstories.co.uk. And as always, a big thank you to Rathbones for partnering with us on this episode. Rathbones. Invest well, live well.